to firstly thank everyone for this really great opportunity to share more about our company, our publication, and everything that we do. Okay, so my name is Taira. I'm one of the writers under the BBC Earth magazine. A few things about BBC Earth. So one of the things that we do, we provide reading programs, okay, to both government as well as international schools throughout Asia. So from Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Jakarta, Hong Kong, and Macau. So today, what I'm going to be sharing with everyone is how we've used this title to be able to cater to the different educational needs in the wider Asian market. As I was saying, so the BBC Earth magazine, we are a bi-monthly publication. We publish once every 2 months. Okay, we draw content from 3 pre-existing BBC Studios publications: BBC Science Focus, BBC Wildlife, as well as the BBC History. So we are an award-winning magazine. So in 2022, we were awarded the Best Magazine title from the Singapore Book Publishers Association, and we beat out other titles such as The Broadest Perspective as well as Expat Living. So you can think of the BBC Earth magazine as a kind of 3-in-1 coffee, which I'm sure we're all very familiar with here. Right? So same thing with your coffee. You have your coffee powder, you have your sugar, you have your creamer. So same thing for the BBC Earth magazine. You have your science, you have your history, and you have your nature content. Altogether, it gives you instant knowledge. So it's a really great publication, all of it in one very convenient place, and very worth your money as well. Alright, so these are a couple of the issues that we published previously, so last year. So volume 15 indicates that the magazine was published in 2023. So this was our January-February issue. Okay, our March-April issue, our May June issue, which is one of my favorites, and I believe something we can all relate to in terms of the cover story, because I'm very sure all of us here are tired all the time. So especially if you're an educator, right? Very burnt out, all very tired. Right? We have our July-August issue, okay, a nature article. We have our September-October issue, very relevant as well, so I'll talk a bit more about this in a little bit. Right? And our most recent November-December issue, not most recent, but our last issue for 2023, the November-December issue. Okay, so let me go through a couple of the regular features that you're going to come across in the BBC Earth magazine. So when you first flip open the magazine, right, for those who have the magazine with you, if you flip it open, the first thing that you're going to see is the snapshot section. So with our snapshot section, right, the snapshots features very high quality detailed photography, right? These are accompanied by very short article descriptions. So this is very appealing, especially for students who are not very comfortable with reading very long form articles, right? They might be drawn in by eye-catching images and very enticed to read on. So with our snapshot section, it follows the main topics of the magazine. So we have our science, history, as well as nature. Okay, so that's our snapshot section. We also have our innovation section next. So this is more for providing information on technology, very popular amongst teenage male readers. Okay, we have our world news section. So this is something that we always highly encourage for students as well as for teachers to read. So this is a section that provides insight on various current affairs topics, so from different parts of the world as well. So this section, we break it up into 3 different parts. So we have our review, analysis, and comment section. So for our review section, we have more giving some background context, okay, explaining things in a way that's very easy to understand. We have our analysis section. This is more to give extrapolation on existing current affairs. And we have our comment section, which is more argumentative. Next slide. Okay, we have our discovery section. So this is more to give light on recent scientific discoveries around the world. We have our audio feature. Okay, so if you scan in to this QR code over here, right, you're going to gain access to this audio. Okay, it's going to read it out loud for you. So what this does is, it's a very good way. Sorry, can you hear me? Okay, sorry. So what this does is, it's a very good way for readers to practice their listening skills, so they can hear the article being read out loud as they are reading it. Okay, so really good for that mind-muscle connection. So towards the end, we also have our Do You Know section. So our Do You Know section is really useful to students who are a little bit unsure or a little bit scared to read more long-form articles. So we asked them questions on what would happen if the Earth would stop spinning. We would also ask them questions on why is the green screen green, and we also asked them things like maybe why do animals sorry. We also asked them questions like why do animals sorry a bit out of breath. Okay, sorry. We also asked them questions like why animals would hiccup. Right, so what this does is it encourages readers who are a little bit afraid of long-form articles. It helps to encourage them to read on, okay, especially if they're very intimidated by longer articles. Okay, we have the brain test section, which is where we have our crossword as well as our wordplay section. Okay, so wordplay, this is where we test readers on the information, the knowledge of vocabulary, especially on words that are already inside the magazine. So the words that we get for the wordplay section, you can find them within the articles itself. Okay, we also have our popcorn science section. So our popcorn science section, this is where we relate the scientific theory, these scientific topics to films that are very close to students' hearts. Right, so for example, films like Batman, you can see it on screen here. Also films like Star Wars. Okay, so this makes reading a lot more enjoyable for students by relating it to things that they are very familiar with and very comfortable with. Okay, so we also have the main bulk of our magazine, which are our regular features. So our regular features, they also follow the main topics of the magazine, which is science, history, as well as nature. Okay, so the features are specifically selected and they are tailored to specific Asian market. So currently on screen here, this is my editor-in-chief, Ms. Cheryl Tay. So unfortunately, she's not able to join us for today's talk, but through this video, she's going to share with us a few of her favorite regular features and articles from this magazine. So, hope this is
This is about the world's rarest rhino, the world's largest land mammal, the Javan rhino. It's a critically endangered species, only 72 of them left, all concealed within one tropical dense forest on the island of Java, Indonesia. There used to be many more of them across Asia, from India to China. However, wars, habitat loss, and trophy hunting led to their decline. Now, rhinos are being hunted for their horn, which is said to treat things like cancer, snake bite, and even as a cure for hangovers. The good news is there have not been any Javan rhino in captivity for the past 100 years, which makes stories like these so precious. On his first time there, the photojournalist spent weeks in the forest and could not find any of the Javan rhinos. He returned a year later, and this time he did. That's what I love about the magazine. So much goes into each story and each photo. Another article I would like to share about is microplastics. We all know plastics are harmful, but did you know that microplastics are potentially dangerous? What are microplastics? Microplastics are microscopic pieces of plastic debris that cannot be seen with the naked eye. The problem is they are everywhere. Up to 1.5 million microfibers are released per kilo of clothing per wash, and simply opening a plastic packet or plastic bottle can release thousands of microplastics into the atmosphere. Originally perceived as a marine issue and found on the ocean surface, microplastics have now found their way to the most remote of regions, such as the poles, equator, the deep ocean floor, and even Mount Everest. Humans have also been found to ingest them, as microplastics have been found in our stool. So now the question is, are microplastics harmful? At the moment, there isn't enough evidence to say. However, we should still be cautious and limit our exposure. So avoid using single-use plastics, choose natural-based products over plastic, and let's all do our part to save the Earth. One piece that's close to home is the cover story of the March-April 2022 issue, Home But Not Quite Dry, about otters. Otters have become a national conversation in Singapore. In the 1970s, they were driven away because of pollution and deforestation. But in recent years, otters have returned in full force and made themselves comfortable amongst us. I'm sure you've read about them crossing the roads, dipping in condominium pools, and even eating expensive koi. These wild otters are testament to Singapore's efforts in reforestation and anti-pollution. Similarly, in the UK, otters were driven away in the 1970s because of pollution, habitat loss, and an accumulation of toxic chemicals in the environment. Then 10 years ago, otters returned to every county in England. But they now face serious threats such as river pollution because of contamination of new chemicals. Read more about the English author situation in this cover story, and I'm sure there are many more articles you'll find interesting in BBC Earth. So grab a copy now.
Yeah, okay. So
This is about the world's rarest.
Okay, so moving on to the BBC Earth worksheet. So to complement the BBC Earth content, we have created and designed various materials and various programs to supplement student learning and also to help teachers in their mission to encourage good reading habits. So the materials and the plans that we have, right, the lesson plans for reading programs, they're all catered and they're all created by the BBC Earth magazine editorial team, right, and they're customized according to each country's needs, each country's syllabus, and also each country's reading level. So for example, with every issue of the BBC Earth magazine, we have a worksheet that is tailor-made to enrich students in their reading and learning experience. Right, so the BBC Earth worksheet comes in 2 levels. So we have an intermediate level, this is more for students aged 10 to 12, right, and the advanced level is more suitable for students aged 12 and above. So the worksheets are really good as they are ways to provide, firstly, additional information for English examinations. There are also ways to provide more information on history topics, right? So giving them content that they might not necessarily come across in their classroom experiences. Okay, it gives them content as well for their extra arguments, extra criticisms. Okay, enhances their critical thinking, teaches them how to take the information that they read and process it and really analyze it in depth. Okay, very important skill. It also helps to encourage these good reading habits. So fostering independent reading habits, encouraging them to pick up this reading habit from a very young age is something that we really believe in over here at BBC Earth. Okay, so a very useful educational resource, something that we really believe is going to build that reading habit among students. Okay, so using the BBC Earth content as well, what we have done is that we have come up with a enrichment program. So these enrichment programs, we focus on the 4 core skills of English. So we focus on reading, writing, speaking, as well as listening. So through this program, what we aim to do is we really aim to firstly introduce very essential techniques for reading comprehension and essay writing. Okay, we want to really familiarize students with very essential foundational comprehension skills, okay, especially the very keen focus on close reading and a very keen focus on critical analysis as well. Okay, we really want to provide as well additional assistance, help them to build up their English language skills, right, get their foundations really nailed down. We want to build their confidence as well, especially in speaking, okay, but not just speaking, but also their ability to express themselves through written text. And you really want to instill a passion for learning, foster a positive growth mindset, okay, get them to want to learn, get them to really love the process of learning. Being able to craft a very strong argument, okay, and also knowing what makes a good story, knowing what works when you are writing as well. Okay, and hybrid writing, whereby we combine different types of writing into one piece of publication, right, as well as, of course, listening and oral skills. So really zooming in on the 4 key skills: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Okay, so over here at our enrichment programs, right, what we really want to do is we really want to encourage students to use the content from the magazine and participate in in-class debate and discussions. So one of the articles that we've really broken down and discussed would be, as I mentioned earlier on, our AI article from November, December. Okay, so this article is very big, it's very broad, so it explores a lot of different perspectives of artificial intelligence. So for example, okay, sorry, we're walking back and forth. Okay, so for example, whether or not AI is something that is becoming more out of control, right? So a lot of my fellow speakers, we have talked about, we have discussed artificial intelligence, right? So what are the possible pitfalls of artificial intelligence? Is it really something that is going to be very useful? Or could it possibly fall into the wrong hands, eventually spiral out of control, right? Or whether or not this is already something that has happened. Okay, very important that we think about what the possible consequences as AI becomes more prominent. Okay, so this article also asks whether or not AI could make us less smart. Okay, as people grow more and more reliant on AI, are we starting to lose out on certain skills, right, such as writing as well as reading? Okay, on the topic as well of creating art, right? So can AI replace people like musicians, replace people like artists. Okay, so is AI going to be capable creating art that is as moving and as powerful as traditional art forms? Right, again, very important questions that are being asked. Okay, another interesting question to think about, whether or not we can start to form meaningful relationships with AI. So especially in the light of the COVID-19 lockdown, many people isolating for weeks at a time. So this article really questions if AI is going to be a possible alternative for people to turn to, especially to overcome these feelings of loneliness. Okay, and finally, right, AI isn't necessarily 100% a bad thing, right? But could AI save us from extinction? So especially as we think about the climate crisis, is AI something that could be a tool to think about possible solutions, right? So AI is something that isn't necessarily bad, inherently harmful, but it could be something that is useful if used correctly or properly. So these are all things that are in this article. So the article explicitly discusses all of these different topics, right? So AI, very, very big topic of discussion. So especially in schools, right? A lot of classrooms are discussing this very big topic. So what we have done in our enrichment programs is using this material, using this content from the BBC Earth magazine. We are incorporating this question into the reading program, incorporating it into our worksheets as well. So we're trying not only to provide students with the content that they need, but we also really want to teach them how they can use this content during the actual process of writing, how they can use these statistics, all of these examples to actually back up and justify when they are writing their essays. So that's what we're trying to do here at BBC Earth. Okay, so talking a lot, let me show you a quick glimpse of what happens or what we do during our sessions.
So let's look at how to understand the bigger picture, right? So one thing that is very important is that you have to be able to understand what the main argument of each paragraph is. Okay, so what is the point, right? What's the gist of each paragraph, and also what's the overall gist of the entire article? Okay, then we look at things like body paragraphs. So your body paragraphs is where you have your main argument. So this is really going to make up the bulk of your essay. So it's very important that it's well argued, and it's very important that each body paragraph follows the cue structure. So it's well organized and it flows well. Yes, very good. So to bell the cat means you are undertaking a very dangerous task. Okay? So to get the lion's share means that you are getting the majority of something. Okay, so for example, if you're doing group work, you do most of the work. Oh, I did the lion's share of the work, right? So you are doing most of the work.
Okay, so on a larger scale, we also have the BBC Earth Challenge. So the BBC Earth Challenge is essentially an Asia-wide competition whereby we gather students from across Asia and we try to test them on their general knowledge of things like science, history, as well as nature. So again, the main topics of the BBC Earth magazine. So here are a few more images of students participating from a few years back. So actually, back in 2016, this was posted in KL. Okay, so let me play you this short video.
Hi everyone, welcome to Petroscience. This is our first inaugural BBC Knowledge Magazine School Challenge 2016, first time in Malaysia. This program has been around, we've been running this program in Singapore for the last 6 years, but it's the first time in Malaysia. Okay, this is the first round of the BBC School Challenge. It's a 1-hour challenge. 50 MCQ questions that they have to challenge themselves with, basically from general knowledge. So once after these 50 questions, after that 1 hour, we'll be tabulating the score and we have the top 10 on 10 results for the second part final presentation. So good luck, students. Okay, so we have done the marking and the scoring is based on 50 and now I have the top 10 teams of them. They did pretty well actually, they all did above more than 50%, 30 and above. So we're going to announce the top 10 shortly. Alright everyone, this is the end of the show, this is the end of the program of the challenge, and you know what? I am very, very impressed. See you in 2017. See you soon.
Okay, so right now we're actually partnering with Keith and hopefully we can organize the BBC Earth Challenge in Malaysia for 2024, so fingers crossed. Okay, so aside from that, right, one thing that we've done very recently is that we engaged with students from various schools in Singapore and we organized the Young Writer Championship for 2023. Right, so what we did was that we collected submissions from both fiction as well as non-fiction pieces that really aligned with the 3 topics of our magazine. So science, history and nature. So we got them to write science fiction, historical fiction and non-fiction as well for the nature categories. So island-wide, we managed to receive upwards of 1,000 submissions from students aged from 8 to 13 onwards, right? And we are now in the midst of selecting and shortlisting our top few submissions. So we'll be hosting our award ceremony this coming March during the school holidays, and we are venue supported by the National Library Board in Singapore. We're also supported by the Singapore Book Council, as well as Kinokuniya in Singapore, and also Times Read Singapore. Right, so again, hopefully as well, this is something we can bring to Malaysia as well. Okay, so that's all for my presentation. Okay, if there are any questions, I'm open to.
Apologies.